Welcome to a special edition of the Richmond Film Network podcast, featuring the writers of the short film Monday, a White Balloon Productions film directed by Richmond Film Network founder Lisa Giles. Made for the first ever Global City producer 48-hour film project.
Hi, welcome to the Richmond Film Network podcast. My name is David Fritzson, and I'm a writer, director, and producer in the Richmond, Virginia area. Joined by me is Anson Kessinger, and today we're going to talk a bit about writing 48-hour film projects, specifically the most recent one, Monday, which you might have seen online. And so, Anson, thanks so much for being on the show, man.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, of course. I wanted to go straight into this because you've done, how many 48-hour film projects have you been part of?
I think I'm probably close to 12, 15-ish now. I'd have to count.
12 or 15. Okay, we're pretty close in that realm. Okay, gotcha. And always as a writer, or bouncing around as different roles?
Usually as a writer, but also filling in on utility spots. For The Real Deal, I did makeup VFX for our zombie gore stuff. Recorded a song for the end of Grandma's Dead, our Yes We Can entry. So a little bit of singing, a little bit of makeup, but primarily writing.
Right on. Yeah, that's I've done 13. I recently did a whole list, and then I made a breakdown of like how many I was like a director, how many a producer, writer, and easily the majority was writer. I think it's out of the 13, 10 of them was writing. So
wow.
Basically what we're trying to say is that we've done quite a bit of writing for these 48s. So now
and grown along the way.
That's right. Yeah, it's always the little lessons we learn along the way. And so speaking of lessons and such, this one was a little bit different, right? Because this one, both you and I were part of this team, but it wasn't guaranteed that we were going to be writers for this 48-hour film project.
Right. We were thrown into the arena.
Right. And just to elaborate, like the City Producer 48, they use a different type of model rather than the typical thing. Typically, writers, are going to be already selected for a team, which we've done in the past. But this one, we had a team of writers, I think it was like 6 or 7 or maybe even 8, that were pitching ideas to the director. And then whichever idea the director liked, they move forward with it. And so it was kind of, I want to talk about how that whole process was, because as far as like the prep goes, I mean, when you know that you have to write for something itself, you have to kind of like be ready on your toes for that first bit of writing. What was going on in your head when you were kind of told you only had about 90 minutes to pitch an idea?
Well, I was already kind of fried because my day job, I work in TV news, and we had done probably one of our toughest shows of the year is our RVA Illuminate show. So like right out of the gate, I basically had come home and was just kind of spent. But you look at a genre list, you kind of drum up what, if you know what locations you have available to you, you kind of just like let it marinate, and then get ready to go when you get those elements. And so we did.
Yeah. The elements were ones that I definitely welcomed because I also was a little bit fried. In fact, the kickoff of when we were supposed to start writing and stuff started around 7 p.m. But we all met up at 6 p.m. to kind of just get a heads up of like what actors we have, finalizing that sort of stuff. I was actually working until 8 p.m. In a retail space, and luckily I was hiding in the back with my iPad when we were getting these ideas and such. But I remember also it was like Black Friday week, or Black Friday had just happened, and my brain was also fried. And I thought to myself, if there's any way I get this, which I didn't think was likely, then I was definitely going to ask for some help from other writers, because it was cool seeing so many other peers that I had worked with. Like you and I have always crossed paths in 48-hour film projects, but never worked together. And so it just seemed like a good opportunity to do so.
And I appreciated the nod there. I really did. It was a pleasure to be able to work on this with you.
Absolutely.
Like I said, we've always been basic competitors
right.
to that point. But this 48 kind of lended itself to everyone uniting and
That's right.
and cranking out a hell of a film.
That's right. That's right. And for what it's worth too, I was, when it came to the elements and such, with my brain being fried, I was just kind of in a silly mode in general when it came to the stuff coming up. So when we were thrown the genres we received were apocalyptic and comedy. And so I remember just thinking, okay, my last 48 I had to write was also apocalyptic, but it was very serious, very sad, very Last of Us, if you will, and which is not funny at all, but great. And I was just in a mode where it's like, okay, we're going to go a whole different direction with this. And so when I was kind of jotting down ideas, like everything just came out so silly, like in general, in a fun way. But like the idea of having you on board, because I knew I wanted to bring at least one or two people involved, and I wanted to have something that had more humor involved with it. And I had this feeling that, based on the fact that both of us have like very similar backgrounds and influences, like we both can vibe about Kevin Smith films all the time. We can vibe about like different, like, video games and such like that. It just made a lot of sense that our humor would line up too. And so I thought to myself, if I need support for the humor side, like I definitely want to bring Anson on board if they pick me. So yeah, no, it was definitely a welcome collaboration. I was so glad that we could do it, because when it came to it, we had to finally, in a matter of me just jotting down all these ideas and such, I just had like basically like an Apple Notes app, like just filled with ideas of like that turned to a plot line eventually. Um, we had only, I think I got home from work at 8:20. I had 10 minutes to pitch this thing, and one by one we had the pitch. Do you want to describe a little bit what that pitch process was like, when what the environment kind of felt like in that Zoom room? As because bear in mind, for those listening, we were doing this all through Zoom. It's not like we were all hanging out at my work or at Anson's work when this was happening.
Right. Yeah, it was interesting. Because of my state, I wasn't so comfortable pitching out in the open as many did. So I took to a private room with Lisa and Will and pitched my pitch, and came back out and listened to everybody else pitch some wildly wonderful pitches. And in the end, you were chosen.
That I was, yeah, and I wasn't expecting it at all. I mean, really, partially because it just was one of those things that was it seemed like such a silly idea, and it was so, put together at the last second, that is like, could this really work out? But I thought to myself, the way I could do this was just make sure that we have, a structure that has like a beginning, a middle, and an end, and just some kind of vibe. And the vibe was just that urgency of, well, for those seeing Monday, everyone has about 5 minutes to live. So there's a lot of urgency in this one. And so I wanted to also include the fact that, we wanted to have something controversial in there. And so one of the things that I wanted to do to really pitch to this was something, really out there. I wanted to start off with something that, rather than meeting with Will and Lisa privately, I wanted to do something where everyone was able to listen in, because I really wanted to see this be a team collaboration. If anyone wanted to join in, anyone wanted to come up with other ideas with it, that would be great. I welcomed it, assuming that mine might not be picked, but it would just be fun to play around with. So in order to get Lisa's attention, I remember earlier that week, I had asked her, what is it something you're looking for as a director? Because I never worked with Lisa. I've worked with Lisa many times for other things, but never writing for her, with her being a director. And so, for example, I had some directors that said, I want to have a moment of dramatic irony. The last film I did, I wanted someone's head to get smashed in. And then Lisa had mentioned that she wanted a sex scene, which I covered my cat's ears when I heard that, because I was very surprised by that. But it made sense. It was something that is not done at 48-hour film projects before. It's something that does work on the rules. It's, doesn't break anything as long as it's not straight pornography. So I wanted to bring in an element of something that would really catch the attention. We had a couple of pitches that were very good, and then there were moments where there was a long pause, and they said, "Where's the sex scene?" And then it's,
Right.
then the sex scene happens. So what I did was I dug out a monologue that is from a classic Kevin Smith film, Mallrats, that illustrated a bit of sex scenes, but also illustrated that moment of what I wanted to capture for this film. And I remember it's such a weird, odd monologue, but I knew that you would know it of all people. So in the chat, like seconds before I pitched it, I said, "Get ready, Anson. Like, there's going to be you're going to hear something that you're going to like recognize immediately." And yeah, I imagine you did, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that scene was a scene from Mallrats where Jason Lee, which is really where he from My Name is Earl fame, made this great monologue where he's talking about at a game show host and to a whole audience at a mall, talking about basically this ridiculous story that you have no idea where it's going. And he effectively says,
"But my cousin Walter jerked off in public once. True story. He was on a plane to New Mexico when all of a sudden the hydraulics went. The plane started spinning around, going out of control, so he decides it's all over and whips it out and starts beating it right there. So all the other passengers take a cue from him and they start whipping it out and beating like mad. So all the passengers are beating off, plummeting to their certain doom, when all of a sudden the hydraulics kick back in and the plane rights itself. It lands safely, and everyone puts their pieces or whatever, away and deboard. Nobody mentions the phenomenon to anyone else."
Well, did he come or what?
Jesus Christ, man, there's just some things you don't talk about in public.
and I used that specifically because I love that feeling of just that moment that it captures of just people with their literal pants down of what that would feel like, that embarrassment, and just realizing like, oh, there's still consequences to our actions, which is really what the film Monday is all about.
The clarity.
The clarity, yes, exactly, the clarity. And meanwhile, as I'm saying this monologue, I couldn't see it, but people in the chat were saying, "Look at Lisa's face right now," because I'm sure her jaw was on the floor when that happened. But I wanted to, have a bit of shock factor just to get people's attention to try to sell this thing. It was a long shot to see if I would get picked, and it's like, I'm going to go with something crazy to start with it. And sure enough, I was, hearing some really great stories. I thought there were a couple others that had some really cool things related to botany or botanists that is our main required character that would get picked. Really compelling stories, really dramatic things that I heard, and really deep ones. And then all of a sudden, like, my screen just like flashed, and I thought the Zoom broke, my internet broke, and all of a sudden I was in a room with Will and Lisa, and I thought I was so convinced I was the first of like the people to get like chopped like it's American Idol, and being like, "Hey, like, we really appreciate the time, but that's going to be it for us. You did great." But it was them saying that they really enjoyed the pitch I gave for Monday. And when I pitched not just the monologue, but also the whole script, or at least, what the idea of the script was. And I just knew that I couldn't do it alone. I was fried from working. And I also just have good friends that I like working with. And I like working with Caitlin Whitaker, who couldn't join us today, but she was one of the writers as well. And again, opportunity to work with you. It's like, I'm going to take it. So I asked to have both of you on, and then the two of them disappeared, and all of a sudden they reappeared with the two of you, and we got right to work. We had quite a bit of time doing that, working on that script. That was a long one, wasn't
it? Yes, I want to say we finished up probably right around 4 a.m.
Yeah, 4 sounds right. I mean, that's close to the record, and for me at least. I think we were like, basically most of it was done by like 2, but then there's just like fine tuning and coming with logistics and locations and work coordinating everything, because there's always plenty of work that the producer Will Sidaros and director Lisa Giles has to do as well. And so they have to be involved in knowing, like, well, where would this make sense? And coming up with casting on their end, who would make sense for these people that these folks wrote.
And Will did a fantastic job too of basically sitting in the background, listening in, and every once in a while giving us a wait, hey guys, and just checking in and really being just one of those great checks and balances.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, a good producer is just somebody who's able to overlook things, but also like not overstep any boundaries at any point. And on the writing side, like, he just was there just to say, "Do you guys need anything? No? Great. Okay, good."
Oh yeah, having that support and being able to have him check, like, if we had to check on a rule of like, what can we do here? What can't we do here?
Yeah.
What was invaluable.
Yeah, absolutely. When it came to the actual vision itself, I mean, what we had in front of you like that I pitched them was we had like a nice Google Doc that had basically the beginning, the middle, and the end, and just some general ideas of like what the dialogue would be, but nothing was set in stone. And just kind of like what we wanted the feeling to be, again, of like we wanted a good mix of like as things were going wrong around the world, people panicking, you just saw one scenario after the next, but like we also want to make sure that there's some heart to it too, so we wanted to keep that structure going. What do you think, how quickly do you think this all kind of locked in together between the three of us, and and how did it evolve through the night?
I mean, I think it was yeah, from the start it was kind of simmering, and I mean, we were obviously just like kind of bouncing ideas to start, and then once we thought we were in a good place, I think like I kind of took to writing one monologue, and then you took to writing another monologue, because yeah, I know I started writing the influencer monologue in the beginning, and then you had started writing the wife phone call. And we were putting that all together all the while, and again, speaking of checks and balances, Caitlin was fantastic in saying like, hey, wait guys, didn't you say that this was going here and all of the pieces need to fit here? She was fantastic in that moment. But yeah, I mean, I think yeah. Once we were all on the same page, which I do not think took very long at all. I mean, we were cooking pretty quick. Just happened to take until 4 a.m.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. We were definitely moving quick, like in the actual process. I think it was cool because we definitely had different duties, like of splitting things up. Because you're right, you were doing the influencer monologue in the beginning. I had said I was very dead set on I wanted to do the monologue for the wife, which I want to revisit in a second. And I knew Caitlin would kind of help keep the pieces together exactly as you were describing. And then I think during some of the more scientific parts that we had talked about in the script, she proofread those to like make sure that made sense as well.
100% Caitlin on the fact checking and reality of all of this.
Absolutely.
She is our science. Nickname her the professor.
Yes. In many reasons, not just for this too. Like she just, Caitlin's a plethora of knowledge when it comes to that. She always surprises us in writing sessions. It's great. I'm curious with surprises too. This is why I want to revisit another monologue. Do you ever include Easter eggs in your writing? Like references to previous films or just personal things, or you try to drop that in?
I will do that. I'd have to go back and read the script because at this point, it's so much a blur, like after holidays and everything. I mean, really, this feels like it took place like 3 months ago.
Oh, absolutely.
At this point for me. But no. I'm an Easter egg person for sure. Just to drop a little 48 Easter egg lore here. One of my previous 48 horror projects was late by 3 minutes and 24 seconds. And our following film was titled 324.
Oh, that's right. I remember that one. Okay.
I was not going to be defeated by it. Was going to own it and make it a part. Yeah,
absolutely own it for sure. Out of the 13 I've done, I've been late once, and I can still hear the editor's voice as a room full of us were waiting for him to export, and hearing his voice say, "I'm so sorry, you guys," and and just waiting that out. And so that was only a couple of years ago. So the last handful of 48s I've done, those like last 12 hours or so, I've like told like when I'm producing one with friends and such, I'll tell them, it's like, guys, like if I'm ever a jerk or an asshole, like I'm really sorry, but like we just have to make sure we are focused, because I just don't want anybody to ever have that same feeling that I and the whole team had when we were late. There's just not a feeling anyone should experience.
No, I always call that one the one that got away, for sure.
Yep, absolutely. Well, when it comes to Easter eggs, why I was bringing it up is because there is an Easter egg in at least one. There might be more. I'll have to revisit the script as well, but there's at least one where the wife is speaking to her husband named Kevin, And I started filmmaking seriously full time in about 2017. When I was kind of burnt out of my sales job. I was in between jobs and, didn't have a lot of money in my pocket. And I was dating someone who brought me out to a brunch with a lot of just like uppity people from DC. But I lived in Northern Virginia, the DC area for some time. And there was this guy there named Kevin who was like an accountant or just had like a very cozy, safe job that he got like straight out of school, didn't have to worry about a thing. And if anyone's out there in the Northern Virginia or DC area, one of the first questions people ask you is, hi, what's your name? Oh, what do you do? Like that like defines you and your role, like of who you are and such. And so that sure enough happened. And I was very nervous to kind of be around people that were, steadily employed and such. And I very nervously said, I'm a filmmaker. And I remember he just went, it's a nice answer. And
what?
And so any opportunity I have to make a character that looks bad, I will always make sure their name is Kevin in the script. So, and for those that have seen it, you might know that poor Kevin in this film has an acorn-sized something. That yeah. So poor Kevin. Anyway,
poor Kevin.
Yeah. Now, you typically, though, partner with Steve Rogers, from what I remember. How would you compare the two experiences between working with him and working with Caitlin and I?
Well, it's really different. It's kind of apples and oranges, I think, because when Steve and I write together, it's like we have concept and hit the road. Right. Mm-hmm. Whereas where I was joining you, this was, this was your baby. So I wanted to just be able to come in and listen and be present and be able to help rather than being like, oh, I'm going to start writing, and make this my thing. It's like, no, but I wanted to be present and collaborative and was, like I said, obviously, very, very appreciative of your thinking enough to bring me on. So, but it was all butter anyway, So it's not different in that, right? Because like Steve and I have a great flow, and this also had a great flow. It was just the approach was different, I guess.
Definitely. And yeah, that I would completely agree. This was a very collaborative thing where all of us were, I think, just even myself, I just felt so lucky to be the one selected, that I just felt like everyone deserves like a turn at this. And I wanted to have everyone contribute, their talents to it. Because I know you guys are very talented writers, both you and Caitlin. And I wanted to make sure that we all had the nice, things that we can contribute to each of it. So it just, I don't know, I felt like the flow is great. There's one flow issue that we had, though, because we had a compatibility issue we hadn't thought of, is that when it came to Final Draft, because I didn't have Final Draft installed, or I had like a super old version of it, and we had to write the script somehow. You had Final Draft 13, is that right?
I have 13 and 12 installed on separate machines.
Right. So, and Caitlin had the same version, but there's like a collaboration thing where the two of you could write like the same script simultaneously, but there's a problem, right? What exactly happened? I'm trying to remember.
I have no idea what happened. I don't know if it was because you were writing and sending me dialogue in the chat, in the Zoom chat, and I was copying from the Zoom chat and pasting it into Final Draft, that at some point during the night, I want to say it was probably, we were getting into like 2-3 a.m., that we were going back to reread what we had written and realizing things were disappearing.
Yeah.
Chunks of dialogue or like action lines had crunched up next to dialogue, and we're like, wait, what is happening?
Right.
And so yeah, that was kind of a panic moment, I think, for both Caitlin and I. So I don't know, for some reason it didn't really like the copy and paste. Somehow we ended up cleaning it all up. I think what ended up happening was I just went ahead and disconnected from Caitlin in the collaboration mode, because once she started writing, I think is when we started to see things. I'm not really sure on a timeline.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, that was a moment.
That was a moment, and I've never had a 48 where everything went completely right, especially the first night something happens.
That would be a miracle.
It would. I don't know if there's ever been a time I've been on set where everything went 100% right.
Yeah.
There's always some kind of surprise, no matter what, and how prepared you are. Let's talk a little bit about the required character prop line of dialogue. For those that are familiar with the 48, you have to have those three things. A required prop has to be in it, a required character, like a name and profession, and then a line of dialogue has to be in it too. And so when we got our three of them, I guess it's like, how do you think we went about making sure the elements shape the story rather than just kind of check the boxes?
All right. I'm just gonna go here with you. I think we're all some old dogs in this game.
Yeah.
And it was just whenever we were ping ponging stuff off of each other, we would say that's where we use that.
Yeah.
It was just in the process. Like we were riffing, we were just going, we were starting to type scenes, we were typing dialogue. And it's like that's where our clock is.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, just to kind of, because there was an original pitch that I gave that had at least Jasmine Miller, who is a botanist, that had to be in the film. I knew that had to
right. I think
be
that was
part of it.
You had that from go.
Yeah, and that's like when I saw that option, I thought to myself, okay, we have apocalyptic, we have something comedic, so it's something that could be very out there of something that could go wrong. Like we don't have to get too into it as far as like explaining all the scientific bits of it, but the sense of like, what could a botanist do? A botanist could solve like issues with plants, and if plants produce oxygen, what if we ran out of oxygen? Then that led to kind of like an idea of like, oh man, this is actually coming out to be something that would be where we run out of time. And we have our pants down moment where everyone's masturbating on an airplane in Mallrats. That's how it all came together in a way. So, but I wanted to, find at least that character to give like a real reason to have them, because there are times where I've seen 48s where people just throw in the character as like a side piece, and it just comes off as like, oh, we're just squeezing them in. And I've definitely done that before myself in previous ones. But I do find it makes the 48s more fun and more interesting when you really utilize all these prompts in a fun way. And the clock, I mean, obviously we were on a time crunch, so having that clock on the wall made a lot of sense. Like it just came naturally. Saying there's a first time for everything, it just kind of came natural, in this sort of environment with those elements. So
I want to say we always kind of have those elements, front of mind. Just in the process, and like when you see that spot, you just know.
Have you? And I know I feel like this is kind of teetering alongside, and not saying naming names or bring up anything, but some people have talked about like that they try to come up with ideas prior to the 48. They try to come up with storylines before the 48, thinking that's going to help them. But first, that really bends the rules, or frankly breaks them, if you're doing any kind of creative work in advance. But secondly, I find that anything that's done in advance, like creative wise, like kind of like takes the fun out of it and kind of takes the challenge out of it, of doing it. Because if you have something already set in your mind and then you get a prop or a character that doesn't match your idea, then you're kind of forcing or jamming those in, and you're not really going to have a great time putting that together. Would you agree with that? That's more fun, just kind of start fresh and enjoy the challenge.
I mean, I feel like you kind of have to, if you're going to make a good cohesive film.
Yeah.
Because people, especially veteran 48ers, will pick that out. They will see, I don't want to name any names, and wouldn't have been anybody from Richmond, but I have seen characters that just walk through the frame, say their name, and leave, and you don't see that person ever again.
Right. Like, hi, I'm James. I'm a golfer. I'm gonna go golfing now. Bye.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is when you find those people, it was kind of obvious that they had what they wanted to do. They knew what they wanted to do. They had their idea, and there was like, okay, well, let's plug that in.
Definitely.
And yeah, I mean, I think it does take away from the fun and the spirit of things for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then when it came to, once we finished it, we were both ready to get some sleep and definitely sleep in for a bit. Because we didn't have to be on set because our jobs are done. We wrote it.
Hats off to Lisa, our director, and Will, our producer, who were with us the entire time, and then also had to be on set the next day.
Yeah, I don't know how y'all did it. I mean, I've been in those shoes before, but I didn't want to be in those shoes again. So kudos to both of you for sticking out and taking care of that and making a movie the next day. How did it feel? How are you feeling, while playing the waiting game during that Saturday? Because I've had some directors that have asked me to be like right next to them all day on set. I've had some that said, "Oh, you're on call, but we'd like you to be on set," and then some that just said, "No, we got it. We're good. Like we're all set. Thanks so much." And this was kind of one of those situations. So like, any sort of like, did you get any antsiness or just kind of curious about that?
No. Trust is a wonderful thing.
It is. And you gotta trust the process.
Knowing that you trust the people that you are working with, is so key.
Absolutely.
Just being able to, you do your job and you give it to the people that they know how to do their job.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I went and played pinball,
right,
and didn't even in my head. I was once it was gone out of our hands, I was just eager to see the finished product.
Quick sidebar. I have to tell this quick anecdote before I tell my side of that. About less than a year ago, I was on a date at the Richmond Pinball Collective, which is, if you don't know about it, it's literally a club that is full of pinball machines, and you can either pay like one time and then go in and play, or there's a monthly like club service that you have in there. And it's pretty far out of Richmond, not terribly far, but far enough that like I thought, I'm not going to run into anybody I know. No one will be there. And then all of a sudden, as I'm hanging out with my date, I look over and I just see this long bearded man staring at me, and I realize it's like, "Hey, Anson," and it was you. And we started talking about pinball, and you recommended some great machines too.
Yeah, and then of course films and what we're writing, and are you doing the next 48? Sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, see you later. And so anyway, but highly recommend the Richmond Pinball Collective. I was talking to a friend, Nicole Shiflett, about it and told her that story, and she's like, "I want to play pinball with Anson." So the three of us are going to
anybody, please. Yeah. I'm more than happy to play pinball.
Love it
with anyone.
Love it. I would agree with the trust part, though, trusting the process. Like we've all worked together in some way, shape, or form, or have seen each other's work that we know that it's good stuff. And I think if there was like just a simple like picture of how I was feeling, I don't know if you've ever seen that GIF of Cookie Monster where he's like working at an office and he's just sitting there like looking up, and the hands are just kind of like, just waiting, just waiting. It's just, a matter of like, okay, totally trusting, but just like, okay, we should hear something soon that they wrapped. Maybe not now, later. And I know that anytime I texted Will, which was very, very few and far in between, because I knew he had plenty going on set, was I would always make sure if it was something that I need to reach out to him for, as I would just say at the very beginning, not urgent, do not need to respond right now, and then would write my actual message saying like, "Hey, good luck," or "Hope everything's going well," or ask something very minor. But would never want to do anything urgent.
Well, let me say that because I had a late film once,
right?
My spidey sense did fire a little bit around 7:00 that night. And now I was just waiting for a confirmation of we're in.
Right. Yeah.
But other than that,
yeah.
Other than that, no worries.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the locations. So we had only a few locations to choose from because, of course, it's not just free game. You can't have the whole we don't have the key to the city of Richmond, right? Like we have only a few locations that Lisa and Will carefully crafted and put together through friends and favors and such. So we had things like we had a cigar lounge, we had a Church Hill overlook, one of my favorite parts of the city. The Atlantic corrugated. How did those places shape the story in ways that you couldn't imagine on the page when you actually saw it?
Well, I mean, I would say they certainly shaped it because I obviously could see all these locations, and the locations were fantastic. And being able to use, I mean, I think we used one location to shoot at least four different scenes, like four different spatial places in the script. I guess is that the way to say that? Because because we had an office, we had a living area where the phone call took place. We had the lab. We had where we had the death, our death scene. So to get that much mileage out of one location was absolutely fantastic. And the way it was shot was beautiful. The lion's den looked just fantastic. No, I was extremely pleased with the locations, and I guess as for what the vision in my head was versus the locations, I mean, I would say they were nearly identical.
I would totally agree. I mean, we were fortunate enough to have a load of pictures prior to it, thanks to Lisa and Will, to kind of envision would this actually make sense for the things we're writing too. So I know there's an extensive part of the night when we were writing, making sure we knew exactly what places were going to make sense for these types of scenes. And the fact that we had one location that covered so many bases, that's always great. I mean, anyone looking for locations, highly recommend if you're an aspiring producer or location scout, find a location that can do multiple things. Our podcast producer, Lisa, mentioned too that we gave a little bit of a spoiler alert that someone dies in it. But we all know that Dumbledore...
but everybody's at risk here, right?
That's right. Well,
who dies? All Dumbledore. Of Richmond? All of the world? Anything is possible.
Darth Vader dies.
Sure.
In this. Yes.
Sure. I mean, we're not Roger Eberting, the crying game here.
No, we're not. But what do you think your reactions were to the finished product versus how you saw it in your head?
There are things that come up. I know that we lost a location. I know we lost two actors.
Right.
So I mean, but that's the thing is when you have a good team, the good team pivots, and I was really happy with the finished product.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I mean, there are things that get thrown at you throughout the day, and losing locations and losing actors that's devastating. And when you have such a short amount of time, there's only so much you can do to do recourse for it, right? And so I felt that they did a fantastic job with that. And every director has a certain vision for it. They work with the writers, talking about what the writer's thinking too. But at the end of the day, it's what the director wants to put towards it, and it's like flavors of ice cream in a way. Like the flavor mine might be was like Rocky Road, or the director's might be strawberry, and just seeing that different flavor approach to it was just so cool to see. Like we saw the words on the screen and such, but just saw a different lens to it or different flavor, and it turned out to be quite a film. So
I mean, you got some of the best of Richmond up in here, and it's no surprise that it turned out as well as it did. And I love my team.
Yeah, absolutely, love the team too. Has this process changed how you'd want to approach future 48s? Anything with this one that you would do differently with a future one?
The goal is just to get up there again.
That's right. I feel like every time I do a 48, especially one later in the year, like a December one like this, I always say well, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to do another 48. I think that's it for me.
What 100%. One of my former team leads As soon as we would like wrap, would say, "All right, you're ready to go again in October?" I'd be like, "No, talk to me in October."
Yeah, we'll talk then. But there's so much fun elements to it, and it's just a bunch of your good friends making a movie. It's a great time. It's a great networking thing. You meet new people, and it's just every time like I think I'm not gonna do it, and then I realize that I'm gonna be. I think of like CJ from class. Any video game fans from there, like CJ from Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Just the shit, here we go again.
Right.
and we're back. So, Anson, now that the film is finished, and people can see it worldwide and such, what do you hope the global audience takes away from the film?
I mean, the messaging in it is pretty clear. In that, in a moment of panic, don't do something you might regret. I mean, not to beat you over the head with it, but I mean that's the messaging is fairly clear.
It is. It's that, and there's a little bit of a play because one of the last things that's said in the entire film is something I heard earlier last year that really stuck with me, saying that they say that you have two lives. The first is the day you're born, obviously, and the second is when you realize you have one life to live. And I really felt that you have to find your purpose in life. Obviously, you have to see what there is that that you make a difference for. And I hope that people see that Jasmine made a difference for the world by what she did best, which was being a botanist. And that there's kind of a play on that statement, because when they realize they have one life to live, some people said, let's go have sex in the bathroom, or let me tell off my husband, and I hope they just enjoyed seeing those pants down moments too, because it was a lot of fun doing that. So yeah. Anything else you'd like to say about the film, the process, anything like that?
I never thought I'd be on a podcast where masturbate on an airplane was spoken.
Oh man, if there is some way that we can actually roll the clip in here, I hope we can. Oh, please tell me we can, Lisa, please. But other than she can insert it, yes. Oh, I'm so excited that this will be there. And then as for me, I'm just like really excited to just have another 48-hour film in the bag. I'm so excited to see Lisa being a director. I love seeing her in the director's chair. Lisa's just done so much for the 48-hour film community, for the Richmond film community. So definitely a big win for us. But other than that, when it comes to Monday, it's being seen right now all over the world. And audiences are voting for their favorite films out of the 22 that were submitted to the competition. So you can do the same thing too. In a second, we'll have some more information as to where you can vote for it online. And we're just hoping for the best, because there's some pretty good things if it's voted for to make to the next round. It will be screening at Filmapalooza, which is a worldwide competition in Lisbon, Portugal. All first place winners of all 48-hour films across the world, because this is a worldwide competition, they'll go to this competition to screen, and it's like a big free-for-all screening. And no better place to do it than Lisbon, Portugal. I had the chance to go there in 2024, and it is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen, and a photographer and filmmaker's dream. Everywhere you look, it's just gorgeous there. And so there will be about half of these 22 city producer films that will be at this screening too. So fingers crossed we get enough votes and we make it across there. But
Let's go.
Yep, but we can't do it without you, so be sure to go vote.
Thanks for watching this special edition of the Richmond Film Network podcast. Be sure to vote for Monday to win audience choice in the Global City Producer 48-hour film project. Then join us in person at the awards watch party on January 10th at 12 p.m. at the Hop. Everyone's invited.